Hi, it's Brendan from 3, and I've spent the last week with a very special new smartphone from Sony, the Xperia Z. And I've got Basil, my friend from Know Your Mobile, here with me, and we're going to have a chat about this super phone and what makes it so unique.
This is the first time I've really had a proper chance to play with the phone. The Xperias of old looked fantastic, don't get me wrong, but this is the first one that actually reminds me of a Sony TV almost. We've seen ruggedized phones before, dust resistant, water resistant, but they've all been kind of lower end devices, and this super phone, this Xperia Z really is pretty stunning to look at.
So it's only 7.9mm thin. And on the back and the front, some very tough glass called Dragon Tail glass. Okay. It's 6 times tougher than Gorilla Glass 2, and also what Sony's done is they've added in a physical power key on the side, and I think it kind of sticks out when you first look at it, but the reason they've done that is they found that people actually press their power key on their phone up to 1,000 times a day. Okay. And when I've been using it, actually, it's so quick and easy to turn the screen off and on instead of reaching to the top of the phone.
Yes.
And I think, the other thing is that this is the first time we've seen Sony do a real super phone.
Yeah.
Quad-core processor,
yeah.
Plenty of memory, there's 2 gig of RAM, and last but not least is always 13 megapixel camera from Sony, new type of sensor.
Okay, yeah, it's a Sony RS sensor.
Sony RS sensor, so you're getting a lot more light into the picture now.
Okay.
And Sony has fully updated the shooting mode. We've got a superior mode in there, you've got a normal mode, you can choose the scene you want. And on top of that is you've now got HDR video.
Cool.
So
you've
do you know what that is?
Yeah, so high dynamic range HDR is when, with photography at least, you get 3 shots taken, it composites an overexposed and underexposed shot and a standard exposure shot, and then it creates a shot with higher dynamic range, so that gives you much more tonal variation.
Yeah.
And doing that in video is incredibly difficult to do, very memory intensive, and to be able to do it with full HD video just really shows off the quad-core S4 processor in there.
It's quite amazing. This morning when I got up, I actually took a couple of test shots of the sunrise because we had an amazing sunrise this morning. I just took it on the superior auto mode. This Sony sense is great because it means that you can, if you're an enthusiast, you can muck around with the settings,
yeah.
But even if you're not, you can just quickly snap great photos.
I can't wait to get that in and really test it against other phones. So as far as the user interface goes as well, Sony have clearly overhauled this completely, but now it runs Android. Do we know what version of Android it is?
Yeah, it's running the latest version of Android, which is Jelly Bean.
Jelly Bean.
So it's 4.1.
4.1.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. So this looks completely different. I mean, there are elements that are similar, like the really neat widgets and stuff.
So they've definitely updated it, and something that was a bit of a bugbear for me is that you couldn't add and remove home screens on the Sony, and now you can, which is great. And there is something new that they've added in called Sociallife. It's a new app, and that basically aggregates your Facebook, news feeds and Twitter into one really nice slick timeline.
Okay.
And I quite enjoy using this to catch up on my Facebook and my news.
But like one thing that has concerned me about this phone is battery life, because you've got that ridiculously good display. We've seen in the past 720p displays of sapped phones. How have you found it in the week you've used it?
So there's a big battery in there, so there's a 2400.
Okay, which is significantly larger than previous phones.
Yeah, and they put something in called battery stamina mode, which I used while I was away. It's a great power management system, and you can see up the top here, even from us just using it, there's still 2 days standby. And when you activate this stamina mode, it turns off the active data connection and it saves your battery while the screen's off, and we're not always looking at the phone screen. So I think that's a great feature that Sony have put in.
So not only is it dust resistant and weather resistant, and of course the design's just really classical, but you've also got this ridiculous 1080p display. And by ridiculous, I mean mind-blowing. You've got 443 ppi. That pixel density is just astounding. I mean, can you tell me something a little bit more about the actual tech behind the screen?
This is the first time we're really seeing a full HD display on a phone, and you can see the colours absolutely pop from the screen, and I can't really see any pixels visible on the screen,
absolutely
which is great. It's good for media, great for photos, great for viewing videos.
Great for reading. I mean, text just looks... I think that's the thing for me, what really, really makes a phone crumble is a poor display when you're trying to read on it. This just, yeah,
pops, yeah.
Can't differentiate any pixels.
Sony have also added in the Bravia engine too,
Okay.
so your videos, your pictures are that much more crisp. I've loaded up a full HD video, which, as you can see, on the display looks absolutely quite amazing. I think that's just stunning.
So the screen makes the phone perfect for internet browsing. You've got that full HD display, the LCD produces phenomenal whites. But what kind of download speeds can we expect on the Sony Xperia Z?
Well, the Xperia Z comes LTE ready, but it also supports 3's ultra-fast network, and that's rolling out across the country at the moment, and I've been getting some of those speeds in here around Maidenhead and also across London, which is great.
Awesome.
So we've talked about what makes the Xperia Z so unique and quite an amazing smartphone. What's your initial reaction?
Real standout. So that 1080p display, just pin sharp, and the weather resistance and dust resistance. Just really refreshing to see on a flagship. And really the thing I want to put through its paces is that 13 megapixel XMORS sensor and the HDR video. There's just a lot here to love.
For me, the absolute standout feature of the Xperia Z is the water and dust resistance, and this is something that I think every superphone should have going forward.